What's going on, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com. This time with a first look on a brand new hybrid action RPG dungeon crawler with MMO elements called Devilian from Trion Worlds. And I say hybrid because it's a nice blend of an action RPG game like Diablo, but has more MMORPG features like open world areas for questing, mounts and pets, guilds, and even MMO-sized PvP. And in this case, strange boob physics, I guess. Which this guy doesn't like, apparently. But to give the game more of an action RPG look and feel, it's set up with an isometric perspective like you're used to with games like Path of Exile, Diablo, or Torchlight, along with some really fun hack-and-slash style abilities. But beyond that, it's a fully featured MMORPG, which is definitely a nice change from the recently released typical MMO number 672, if you catch my drift. The game is currently in alpha right this second, but just on the verge of closed beta. It really seems like it's in more of a closed beta state of development right now, but of course, everything you see is subject to change, and they haven't exactly announced when the beta starts. So, with that, I'll hop into the game and show you guys around, pointing out what it has to offer so far. Alright, so it's probably best to start out with the class selection and character customization this time around. First off, the classes are gender specific. Just wanted to put that out there. But personally, I don't mind so much in this game for the same reason I don't mind so much in Path of Exile. You're looking at your character from a distance, focusing on applying death and destruction. That's your main goal, so it doesn't exactly bother me so much if it's coming from a little girl with a cannon. That's just my opinion in this case. So, for now, there are 4 classes to choose from, 2 male and 2 female classes, all designed to deal maximum damage in a variety of ways. Starting with the Evoker, who focuses on magical damage with spellcasting, anything from bolts of chained lightning to straight-up firestorm. She can take down enemies with pretty much any element available. Next up, you've got the rampaging Berserker, who forgets the shield at home and wields blades in both hands, capable of becoming a spin-to-win whirl of destruction fueled by rage that's probably caused by sitting in traffic way too long, so you know it's bad. The nice thing is, if you're trying to figure out what class/type of destruction you want to cause, you've got a nice preview window here showing off some of the abilities that that class has to offer. And then next up you have my favorite so far, the Shadowhunter, who is all about being adaptive in combat. He uses a whip and shuriken, dealing quick strikes at both short and long range, and is capable of stealth abilities that help him kite and position enemies for the ultimate effectiveness of his high damage dealing abilities. So he lines them up and knocks them down. And last we have the Cannoneer, which is my second favorite, but only by a little. Very similar to the Gunner in Terra, she packs a lot of heat and is capable of dealing all the damage from the furthest range. Now, there is one more class that is going to be added in sometime in the future. It hasn't been announced just yet for the English version of the game, called the Chiron, who wields a double-sided spear that also separates during combat depending on her close or ranged ability. So as the developers continue to add content to the game, we should see the class count grow over time. Now, keep in mind, when choosing one of the classes, you'll have the option to follow 3 different ability paths later on for each class. Each path offering different styles of skills, of course. Plus, you can mix and match these abilities to give you a unique build-out according to your playstyle. You've got a little bit of variety going on there. And apparently, you'll have even more variety to choose from late game as well. And seeing that each character in the game is a half-devil, or in other words, Devilian, each class has a Devilian form that you unlock after level 10 that is very similar to the Dark Knight transformation in Vindictus, but I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. After you select your class, the game does offer a little bit of customization, but first you'll notice here that you can preview what your character looks like in their Devilian form, which looks pretty badass regardless of the class that you go with. As if a little girl with a huge gun isn't scary enough, now she looks possessed as well. Unfortunately, there isn't any customization for your Devilian form, but just like your main character, as you progress, you'll come across gear that can potentially change the way you look. I don't know about the Devilian form gear, but the base character gear changes pretty often, and you can get some examples of that right here. Most of the time, it looks really cool, but the cash shop also offers plenty of costume items and appearance swaps, so got you covered right there. Over here you have several options that change the facial features and ears in some cases, all of which look really good. There's no fine-tuning or adjusting on this, so no sliders, but still has some decent options. Of course, you have lots of skin tone and lip colors to choose from, so go crazy there. Same goes with the head tab here, which should actually be labeled as hair because that's what you change here, along with the color, of course. You then have several options for tattoos, as well as your eye style and color. But you might be wondering why you would need to add such small detail to your character if the game is in an isometric perspective and you're viewing your character from a long distance. Well, this is because the game actually lets you zoom all the way into your character, similar to how you can in MMORPGs. It's just one more feature that gives the game a hybrid feel. Now, with that said, the only reason you'd be zooming in is, in fact, to check out your new gear, because you don't exactly have control of the camera. It's fixed where it is, so obviously that's not very effective when fighting an army of bad guys. But again, seeing that the game has mounts and pets as well, it's kind of nice to be able to zoom in close every once in a while. After customization, the game leads you straight into a tutorial-style intro dungeon that gets you your first 3 or 4 skills, and the nice thing is you have a couple of options for movement controls in this game. You can either use WASD to move around, if that works for you. I don't exactly recommend that one personally, or you can use the typical ARPG or MOBA style movement, which is left-clicking to lead. And just like you're used to in most cases, it's a click and hold style, so you don't have to be constantly clicking around all over the place, even though it looks like that's what I'm doing. Your skills, however, are set up like a typical hotbar in an MMORPG, utilizing the number keys. Left click is for one of your abilities. Some of the F keys, which are really handy for consumables and potions. You've got Q for your quick consumable. Spacebar allows you to dodge, and Z, which is a quick zoom to your character. Don't accidentally hit that one while you're in combat, it kind of sucks. You could also bind something else to your left click if you didn't plan on using it for movement. Not to mention, you do have the option to go in the menu and reassign keys how you want them. So, with all of the options, the controls work out nicely in this game, in my opinion. You could probably even set them up similar to Path of Exile if you wanted to on Q, W, E, R, and T. Might be even better that way. Anyway, moving on. At this point, the game still hasn't been localized with English dialogue. The written information is all in English, but nothing spoken is in English. So you're going to hear a lot of that for now. I don't know about the closed beta, but for now, that's how you get it. So the story in the game is pretty basic. You are the last vanguard of Nala, a half-devil hero fighting to save your world from a fallen god. But that said, the action can be fairly bloody. Nothing wrong with that. Reminds you a little bit of Dark Blood in this sense. The skills, as you can tell, no matter what class you pick, consist of a variety of single target, linear style, and AoE attacks. You start off with 4 abilities by the time you're level 7, and from there you start gaining points to unlock additional skills every couple of levels. And like I mentioned earlier, each class has 3 different skill trees you can go down. The Cannoneer, for example, has the Gunslinger path, the Demolisher path, and the Opportunist path. Now, keep in mind, you can mix and match from each one of these paths, so you're not exactly set on a specific one. However, they are, in fact, linear. Therefore, you have to unlock the first set of skills in each tree in order to get to the later ones. So in other words, there could be plenty of skills in this particular path that you might want, but you have to go through this skill and the next couple in order to get to it. So there's only a tiny bit of freedom when it comes to this, unfortunately. But each path offers a slightly different group of skills and the way they affect your enemies. For example, the Demolisher path focuses on increasing your attack speed through passives and debuffing your enemies at the same time. The Opportunists is basically your opportunity to deal the most damage. This ability right here has been my absolute favorite for the Cannoneer. It deals so much damage and has a half-second cooldown, so you can spam the heck out of it until you're out of mana. And with the passives that it has on it, you can reduce the mana cost down to hardly anything. It's kind of broken. The Gunslinger path offers you a lot of abilities that puts a lot of projectiles in the air, so you can send wave after wave of objects at your enemies while you kite them around through it again. So as limiting as the paths are when it comes to mixing and matching, there's just enough variety between even the starting abilities to allow you to find a unique playstyle. And if you've noticed, each one of the active abilities have passive options, like I mentioned before, that aid the active ability in some sort of way, like adding damage, or reducing mana, or increasing effect duration. Nothing along the lines of Path of Exile, obviously, but you still have plenty of variety here. Once you reach level 10, you unlock your Devilian form, which gives you 4 or 5 completely separate abilities, maybe more later on, I'm not exactly sure. After you've collected enough souls, you can press V to pop into Devilian form, turning into a freaking beast, making your stats skyrocket. Now, to be honest, the game below level 20 hasn't really become challenging yet, especially if you're used to other ARPGs. So there wasn't really a time that I felt that I needed to use my Devilian form as a safety net. So I actually had to just decide to use it if I wanted to basically insta-kill a boss I was fighting. The transformation doesn't really last that long, and all of his skills crit really hard, so you kill things super fast. So the little time that you have, you can serve a massive beatdown on anyone and everyone. It does take a little while to build up enough souls in order to use the Devilian form, and you do this by hitting and killing enemies, so I can imagine later on you might want to choose to use it wisely and only go Super Saiyan for the hardest boss fights. Then again, you do want to use your Devilian form semi-often early game because you actually level that form up separate from your base character, which of course offers you even more stat boosts and access to more runes and gear to push your power even further, like...
Over 9,000! What, 9,000?
Eventually. The other thing is, you're always in Devilian form during PvP, so if you want to get good at killing other players, you better get used to fighting in Devilian form. Now, I didn't get a chance to mess around with PvP in this game, but they do offer some larger scale 20 versus 20 arena battles, all in Devilian form, which seems really cool for this type of game. The game itself is set up with small towns connected to open world PvE zones where you do most of your questing. This is where the game feels a little bit more like the typical MMORPG, mobs scattered everywhere. And to be honest, the questing is very easy and gets fairly repetitive rather quickly. It's always examine this dead body or destroy this object, which alerts the enemies around you. You have to kill them. The combat itself and the instant satisfaction of you hacking up a group of enemies makes the questing bearable over time. That and auto run. Typically, I'm not the biggest fan of games that rely on this feature, but it's actually fantastic in this game. When you click auto run, it auto-magically summons your mount, which you get fairly early on and is really convenient in the game, and then it takes you exactly where you need to go, and then back again to the quest NPC if it's not just one that you can click to complete on the go, which is also handy. Plus, it's totally optional. The minimap is perfectly useful at indicating where you need to get to, and you can use it that way if you'd like. Otherwise, you're going to want to auto-run it up. It saves you a lot of time. Other than the open world areas for questing, occasionally you run into dungeons you get to complete, which bring you back to the really fun dungeon crawler ARPG feel of, say, Diablo, even though nothing changes about the combat itself. I guess this is fun because it's a path of tons of monsters leading up to a nice boss fight at the end. You can choose to do these solo or with groups of players, which can obviously be fun, especially when you get to some of the raid bosses later on. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention the pets in this game are very useful as well. Look, I'm a half-devil Shadowhunter with a corgi. This corgi, little devil, gives me an extra 16 slots of inventory space, but the best part is I can actually just dump inventory into these slots and click this button right here to sell it all from here without having to stop and sell stuff at a merchant. Good stuff. There are several pets in this game. I've got this other one here, this Tinkerbell looking pet that heals me slowly if my health falls below a certain percentage, which is always handy. You can get pets from the cash shop, from the founders packs, and you can even get some trials as quest rewards. So if you get a chance, try out a corgi. And the mounts themselves are nice. Each one seems to be about the same speed, and as a part of the auto run feature, once you get beyond level 12 or so, it's very easy to aggro monsters, so it's best just to outrun them on your mount. Mounts and pets are one thing that you can get in the game's cash shop, like I mentioned, along with other convenience items like inventory expansion tickets, character slot tickets, a couple of costume items and outfits that give you slight stat boosts, but not really enough to do much or make it unfair for players who are not buying these things. Besides, the PvP, like I mentioned, is just in the Devilian form, so that won't apply there anyway. They do have a tab for something that you can buy for your Devilian, but it's empty for now, so I'm not really sure what that's going to be. Perhaps some cosmetic stuff that doesn't apply any stats. And then you have the Talisman Boxes that you can buy here or earn by salvaging items and crafting them. Talisman Boxes offer you talisman cards that provide you with a stat boost aside from your stats that your gear offers you. These come in different rarities offering different stats, and you can unlock additional slots at different points in your leveling. So there are plenty of ways to add stats to your character in this game, and this is just another one of them. And with that, that's pretty much what I have to show you guys as an introduction to what Devilian has to offer, so far anyway. Overall, I feel that it's a nice twist on the MMORPGs that have come out recently. Always nice to have some multi-genre features tied into one game. And in this case, the game can be fun for MMORPG fans as well as ARPG fans. A little in between. Just from the top-down view alone, this game kind of makes me want to play Tree of Savior, even though they're completely different style games. There's a guild system in this game that I didn't really get a chance to check out just yet, and they have plenty to showcase in terms of PvP. More information about that is coming out soon. Like I said, at the time this video is being made, the game is in alpha, and it really feels like it's about to hit closed beta any day now, and when it does, it's worth picking up a key to try out in my opinion. For now, you can get alpha access, but only if you get the top tier Founders Pack. Otherwise, any of the Founders Pack gets you beta access whenever that comes around. Keep an eye out at the giveaway section at MMOHuts.com for beta keys in the future. Thanks for watching, and until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.